There are two terms that are used. One is Wahhabi, and it is used because the name of the founder was Abdul Wahhab. And so from Abdul Wahhab, they're called Wahhabis. People who follow Abdul Wahhab are called Wahhabis. But they didn't like that term, and so they have coined another term. They call it Salafi. And this referred to the early community. Like you had the early Christians, so too you had the early Muslim community. And they say that our Salafi community is one which struggles to restore the way of life of the early Muslims, the Salafis. But your question is directed towards the political implications of the emergence of the Wahhabis in Saudi Arabia. And without any question of a doubt, this was a marriage of convenience between a religious movement that was in very many respects similar to Protestantism in Europe, a religious movement which was turning away from the spiritual heart of the religious way of life and was restricting the religious way of life to the following literal interpretation of only texts. Religion is founded on texts, T-E-X-T-S, and these texts must be understood literally unless interpreted otherwise by the Prophet himself and by his companions. It led to a kind of blindness, and as a consequence, this marriage of convenience between the religious movement and the political movement led by the Saudi family eventually made an alliance with Britain in the first Arab Spring, when Britain was looking for pro-Western governments to rule over the Arab world. And they successfully installed in Arabia a pro-Western regime called Saudi Arabia. This was the first major sign of a blindness, a religious blindness in the Wahhabi movement of the Salafis, that they could not stand up and offer a masculine challenge to this betrayal of the Prophet and betrayal of Islam in a Saudi Arabia which has become an ally of the modern West, and as a consequence an ally of the Zionists. That Wahhabi blindness has continued to this day, because Saudi Arabia has come out from behind the curtains, and Saudi Arabia has now become a strategic ally of the state of Israel, and so too the state of Qatar. And as yet we do not have, there are voices of dissent in Saudi Arabia, definitely. And there are many, many Saudis who are now listening to me. Yes. But the Saudi religious establishment continues to display a pathetic blindness and an incapacity to recognize the betrayal and to stand up and to denounce it and to struggle to liberate Arabia from the hands of those who have taken it into the bosom of Zionism. This is my political assessment of the Wahhabi movement.